All right, today we're tackling one of history's absolute giants, the Apostle Paul. This is the guy who wrote a massive chunk of the New Testament. But what's so wild about him, what really makes his story pop, is that it's just this incredible, massive contradiction.
So that leads us right to the big question, the one that hooks you. How on earth does a man whose entire mission was to stamp out the early Jesus movement, to literally destroy it, end up becoming its most important architect? I mean, it's a total 180. And to figure that out, we've got to get to know the man himself.
Okay, so before he was Paul the Apostle, you have to remember he was Saul of Tarsus, and the records are pretty clear on this. This guy was a zealous, super-educated Pharisee. To him, the followers of Jesus weren't just misguided, they were a dangerous threat to the very core of Judaism. And he wasn't someone who just disagreed from the sidelines. Oh no, he was an active persecutor.
So how do you even begin to understand a transformation that big? Well, you have to look at the world that made him. See, he wasn't just one thing. He was this incredible fusion of three completely different worlds.
First up, and this is the absolute foundation of who he was, Saul was Jewish. And not just any Jew, he was a Pharisee. You got to understand, the Pharisees were kind of the intellectual heavyweights of their time, known for their super strict, detailed observance of the law. This background gave him this deep, deep knowledge of Scripture and a really sharp, logical, legal kind of mind.
Okay, second world, the Greek world. This is Hellenism. His hometown, Tarsus, it wasn't some backwater town. It was a major university city. Get this, the historian Strabo actually said it was a more important center for learning than Athens and Alexandria. I mean, that's huge. So Saul grew up breathing in Greek philosophy, rhetoric, and of course he spoke fluent Greek, the language of the entire empire.
And then there's the third world, and you really can't overstate how important this is. He was a Roman citizen. Now, this was a huge deal. Most people in the provinces, especially Jews, did not have this. He inherited it. Think of it like a super passport combined with the best legal insurance imaginable. It gave him protection, the right to travel freely, and this incredible trump card, the right to appeal his case directly to Caesar.
So, let's put it all together. What do you get? You get a guy who's an expert in Jewish scripture, an intellectual who can debate with Greek philosophers, and a citizen with the full legal protection of Rome. This unique three-part identity, this is the absolute key to understanding everything he does next.
And what comes next? Well, it's probably one of the most famous, most dramatic conversion stories ever told. A journey that literally started with a mission to tear something down and ended with a mission to build it up.
So picture this. Saul is on the road to Damascus. He's got official papers. He has the authority to hunt down and arrest followers of Jesus. He is a man on a mission, absolutely convinced he's doing the right thing by wiping out this dangerous new sect. And then, bam! In a flash, his entire world is turned upside down. The book of Acts tells this incredible story. A blinding light from heaven, a voice, Jesus himself, speaking directly to him. The whole thing is just disorienting. And the result? The man who rode into town to arrest Christians becomes one of them. It's an overnight transformation.
You know what's really fascinating, though? It's how Paul talks about it himself. In one of his letters, he's listing all the people who saw the resurrected Jesus, and then he just kind of tacks himself on at the end. He says Jesus appeared to him as to one untimely born. It's such a strange phrase, right? It's like he's saying, yeah, I wasn't part of the original crew. I was this weird, late, unexpected addition. So this new man, who now goes by his Roman name, Paul, has a brand new mission. The next logical question is, okay, how do we even know what happened next? How do historians put his story together?
Well, it basically comes down to two main sources, and it's really important to know the difference. On one hand, you have Paul's actual letters. This is the primary source. You're hearing directly from him. Then you have the book of Acts, which is more of a narrative history where Paul is a major character. So think of it this way. Acts gives us the what and where of his journeys, but his letters, that's where we get the how and why. We get right inside his head.
And this is where those three worlds we talked about just click into place. It's like his background was the perfect toolkit for this new mission. His Jewish training, it meant he could walk into any synagogue and debate scripture with the best of them. His Greek intellect, that let him connect with non-Jewish audiences in big philosophical cities like Athens. And that Roman citizenship, that was his get-out-of-jail-free card and his travel pass all rolled into one.
So, what was the result of all this? The result is a number, 13. 13 of the books in our New Testament are attributed to Paul.
This just goes to show he wasn't just some guy wandering around preaching. He was a thinker, a writer, a theologian. And in these letters, he's hammering out these huge, revolutionary ideas, like the idea that salvation comes from faith, not just from following the rules. That idea would change everything.
But his story doesn't just end with writing letters. We need to look at how his mission came to a close, and how his legacy really got locked into place.
And here's a little inside baseball from scholars, which is actually pretty cool. They split his letters into two camps. There's what they call the Firm Seven, letters that pretty much everyone agrees Paul wrote himself. Then there's a bunch of others where the authorship is debated. But here's the thing, even if his students or disciples wrote those other letters, they're still carrying forward his core ideas, his unique vision. And in the end, his commitment was put to the ultimate test. The book of Acts says he gets arrested in Jerusalem. And this is it. This is the moment he plays his trump card. I am a Roman citizen, and I appeal to Caesar. That move triggers this epic journey to Rome. There's even a shipwreck involved. And tradition tells us that's where his life ended. He was martyred for the exact same faith he had once dedicated his life to destroying.
And really, that's the bottom line. Paul's letters weren't just correspondence. They became the architectural blueprints for Christianity. His ideas about faith, grace, and the law, they didn't just shape a religion. They became one of the fundamental pillars of all of Western civilization.
So, that leaves us with this one giant, lingering question. Think about it. Without Paul, the Jesus movement could have easily just stayed a small local Jewish sect and faded into history. But because this one man, this perfect storm of a Jew, a Greek, and a Roman, had that unbelievable transformation, that little movement exploded into a world religion. And that's the thought I want to leave you with. Just imagine for a second, what would our world even look like today if Saul of Tarsus had never taken that road to Damascus?